to Freshly Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of podcast Freshly Forever. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Dr. Akil Taher. He is a book author, research and physician, septuagenarian athlete, and most importantly, he has managed to find robust health further to undergoing a bypass surgery himself. Welcome back, Dr. Taher, to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Vi. I am so happy and honored to be on your show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. So, Dr. Taher and I, in part one of our conversation, we talked a lot about his journey and the role of diet and lifestyle in chronic conditions, and specifically how heart conditions manifest in the first place, and so much more in that. So, tune in and enjoy and benefit from that conversation before you catch up here with the part two. We talked about sugar, oil, everything, and the influence on health. Why don't we talk about junk eating versus eating real food? So one can be vegetarian, one can be vegan, yet they can eat junk, right? And the importance of a whole foods plant-based diet means eating more whole grains, eating more vegetables, eating more fruits and all of that, right? So if you can corroborate to that effect and also talk about junk eating versus the need to eat real food, I think listeners can greatly benefit from that, because you just said eating those can still be delicious. It need not be boring. Some people tend to think, oh, vegetarian is boring. Or athletes, they tend to think, where is my protein coming from? Or where's my B12 coming from if I'm like vegetarian? And a lot of people tend to think, I don't get my iron. And we have talked about exercise. We have touched upon food. We are still going to talk more about food. And there is another huge component, sleep, correct? So we really have to focus on that. But let me allow you to first emphasize on the need for a proper eating regimen when it comes to, junk versus real, and what that real means and how one can make it delicious.
Correct. See, let me give you my own example. That will let the listeners understand, the viewers understand. I based my diet on total bad, unhealthy food and drink before 61 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I changed, I first became a flexitarian, meaning I cut back on meat, eggs, and dairy. Then I started wondering, what should I give up? Now, I was lactose intolerant, so I gave up dairy. But again, the cheese was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I gave that up. Then I said, what is the next? So next I gave up, I was over lacto now. So I started giving up eggs, but I could not give up fish. So I kept on with fish for a long time. And rationalizing, intellectualizes that fish is good for me. The omega-3 is there. This is all rationalized. Clever people, the so-called clever people like me, so-called, we always love to rationalize and say, oh, this is better. Finally, when I gave up fish and I became a vegetarian, I was happy. But then I fell off the wagon and I became a junk food vegetarian. First I became a vegan, then I became a junk food vegan. So what I did was I would stop by French fries, soft drinks, a lot of sugar. I would eat fried foods. Like if I go somewhere, eggplant, it should be fried. So overall, junk food vegan is as bad as putting a flesh of an animal in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be a healthy vegan, then you follow these 5 groups that I mentioned and you can change. So let me give you an example of myself, what I eat, so that people can understand. I give you one day of mine, what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is 2 to 3 glasses of water with apple cider vinegar, a little bit in it, but it's lukewarm. I drink this, and this is the first thing that I do after brushing my teeth. Then what I do is I put every fruit that is in my house, whether it is pears or apples or bananas or blueberries or what have you, I take and make a smoothie. for me and my wife. In that, I will put sometimes celery, arugula, spinach, so that I get those vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Another point that people always ask me is, where do I get my calcium from? So calcium is not only in the milk. Calcium can be got from cruciferous vegetables like your bok choy or spinach or kale or what have you, from your nuts, from your seeds, pumpkin seeds. These are all full of calcium. Soy. So you don't require. I'm just transgressing a bit. But people turn around and tell you, because of the dairy industry, oh, you require 1200 milligrams of calcium a day. No, you require 600 to 700 milligrams, and you can get it in your vegetables. So after that, what I do is once I make that smoothie, then I will go for my run, which is about 5K 5 days a week. Before the run, I will take that because I always put beet. Beetroots are the one which acts directly on your endothelial cells, the inner lining of your blood vessels, and makes it more healthier so that the coronaries and other blood vessels in your body dilate. Then I'll come back from the run and I will 11:30, I will get hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So I will take and make a sandwich. Now it can be, I use Ezekiel bread, which is a whole grain bread, because I believe, and people can do it wheat, sure, no problem. But I cannot. So I use Ezekiel bread and I make, say, a portobello mushroom. It got a lot of water, mushroom. So you really got to do it in such a way that you take off all the water, and I take the spinach with all the condiments and spice, garlic and ginger and what have you, and make a nice burger. Why do I make a portobello mushroom? Because I loved burgers before.
Mm-hmm.
This has got an earthy taste, and now I don't miss it. That is as good because it's very tasty. Then the other day I was at Whole Foods and I saw jackfruit in a box, which was, what you call that on when you marinate it. So anyway, it was so beautiful, that jackfruit, that if you do it, because I used to love having this chicken meat and all that.
So like in a barbecued fashion.
Barbecue, that's the
Mhm.
word. And I get a barbecued, this thing, it was barbecued. And I saw the fat content was 0. So I put it on the stove and just made it, they said, chop it a little bit if you want. And I put it between my Ezekiel bread or a regular bun. That day I took a regular bun, put lettuce, put tomato, put onion. I gave it to my son and told him it's chicken. And he did not know. But when I told him that it is not, it is jackfruit, he said, yeah, that was not good. But he got into it. So you can do different things. So what I do in the afternoons, I do this. Evenings, my wife will always have a 7-grain bean soup or any vegetables which are there. Just make something. Then we have quinoa or amaranth or brown rice, and it is great. So this is my daily thing. And then we change. We use eggplants. And what I do is I have my own garden, which during the COVID period, there are 3 things that I learned. One was I got time to write my book, because otherwise I would not have. Number 2, I started gardening.
Mm-hmm.
Not too good. I'm okay, medium. And cook, I started cooking. And again, I'm not a very good cook. My wife is, but I'm not. But I'm learning. So these are the 3 things that I learned. And then comes in the afternoon, because see, remember one thing, people when they go whole food plant-based diet, the biggest mistake they make is they don't eat enough. Because a whole food plant-based diet is nutrient dense, not calorie dense. So you can eat as much as you want, you'll still lose weight. So my point is that once in the evening, then we have this, then we start whatever, again, I made it a habit to have a fruit before, after my dinner. So whatever fruit is lying around, I will have it. I'll put little bit of balsamic vinegar, this, that, make it exciting. Grapes, for example, if you freeze the grapes, that tastes beautiful.
And I guess where people go off the grid is when it comes to snacking, right? People want to eat a snack. They get hungry and they want to eat a snack. So what about the snacking, binge eating, and even odd eating hours, not eating food on time?
See, I have made it a habit as far as possible, unless I'm going to somebody's house or I'm in a wedding or some other party. But other than that, my eating habits, or most of us should have the eating from sunlight to sunset. You should not be eating after sunset, and you should not be eating before sunrise. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is you eat breakfast like a king, you have lunch like a prince, and you have dinner like a pauper. Don't gorge yourself in the evening, which we tend to do. That is your number two regarding your foods. Our diets, which are there in America, are based on how a person looks, external. They're not worried about the internal. As long as you lose weight and look good, that is great. Now, I want to ask you this, that they did, Elizabeth Blackburn was a very famous person who got a Nobel Prize in 1991, 1990s somewhere. And what she did on telomeres. What are telomeres? This is for your audience. The DNA is coiled. 43 strands of DNA are coiled in each cell.
Mm-hmm.
DNA are coiled as chromosomes. On the tip of each chromosome, you have a telomere so that your DNA does not get frayed very easily. Now, as you get older and your cells divide, this telomeres start getting shorter and shorter till the time your cells cannot divide and you die. Now, what they found was that if you use a whole food plant-based diet, your telomeres start increasing in length and they do not get shortened very easily. What Elizabeth did was, Blackburn, she found the telomerase enzyme. So when she found the telomerase enzyme increased in people who were on whole food.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a study on obesity, and they found out whether longevity would be there if a person. So they took people who strenuously exercise, really, and very calorie restricted diet. They lost weight, but the telomeres did not increase in length. The moment they were on whole food plant-based diet, the telomeres started not increase in length. So even longevity, what has happened to us? We are living long, sure, but we are not living healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Our lifespan has increased, but our health span has decreased. So that is my first point in terms of your, when I was talking about there's different diets. Now, number two is when people turn around and tell me that, look, I'm doing the intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Nobody stops you from doing intermittent fasting. That is perfectly all right if you have to do it. 16 hours of fasting will give you a lot of this thing. When you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, the biggest problem I have is people when they come around and they say that I am so hungry all the time. But that is the time I tell them, you got to eat more. That's the only diet, that's the only nutrition that you can tell people to eat more than less.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do when it comes to, say, someone wants a snack? I guess we were also talking about snacking and binge eating and all eating hours.
The snacks and all that the accompaniments are more important than your snacks. So if you take a carrot stick and eat it, you may not find it interesting. If you take zucchini, which you get the baby zucchinis and eat, you will not find it. But if you use a nice condiment along with that, salsa, which is very good and tasty and all that, and dip into that, and that'll be great. Broccolini. I always have my broccolini or my zucchini or my carrot sticks or asparagus. And then I fall back onto nuts. But I don't do too much nuts. My wife does a lot because, again, nuts for me because I'm a heart disease patient. See, one important thing which I must tell you, I'm just jumping guns over here, is for older people. You see, I think one of your questions was that older people, is there a limiting factor for old people to change their lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
No. Old age is not a limiting factor in changing one's lifestyle. But having said that, this is for all the older audiences in your podcast who are my age or 60 and above.
Mm-hmm.
As you grow older, your hunger becomes less. There's several reasons for this. Because you're not moving that much. You're not active that much. So you need to change a few things in your diet pattern. Your thirst center is not as well equipped as when you're younger. So you got to make a knowing this decision to drink more water even though when you're not thirsty. These people, you must understand, there can be terms of vitamin D deficiency because vitamin D, even when I was practicing in clinic, 60% of my patients were vitamin D deficient. If there is one golden nugget that your people can take is that vitamin D is very, very important, and you should be taking supplement vitamin D. I've never seen in my 45 years anybody having vitamin D toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Please take your vitamin D. You can take from 1,000 international units to 2,500 international units and get it checked. Between 30 to 100 is normal. This is a fact. When the COVID period, I isolated myself. I did not go out at all in the sun. Getting vitamin D from the sun is the best way.
Mm-hmm.
15 to 20 minutes of direct sun exposure on your skin is good enough. Then you don't have to take. But I did not go out at all for 3 months. I checked my vitamin D. Normal is 30 to 100, correct? Mine was, 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what my point is that D is very important. Vitamin D also is extremely important in COVID. There was a small study done, double-blinded controlled study done about 1.5 years back. 50 patients were taken with moderate to severe COVID, enough for them to be admitted in the hospital. And 25 of those were given very high doses of vitamin D, about 50,000 units, and the other 25 were not given.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that were not given vitamin D, 7 of them landed on the ventilator. The ones who were given vitamin D, high doses, only 1 landed on the ventilator. And therefore, vitamin D becomes extremely important. You can't sit in your house and come through the window panes. You're not getting the ultraviolet rays. It should be direct sunlight. And it should not be the 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, which will got sunburns and cause problems. 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, sun.
So the rising sun or the early morning sun and the waning away sun.
Correct. You took the very words out of my mouth. Thank you. And so vitamin D is very important. And another study, because of the COVID, the plant-based food study just done recently in Harvard. I heard Dean Ornish talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
3,000 people, small study, 3,000, and not a double-blinded, but just an observational study. 3,000 people from medical field, nurses and doctors from 6 different countries were taken for this study. One group was a heavy meat eater group, and the other group was plant-based. The plant-based group had 74% less chances of getting into moderate to severe COVID.
Mm-hmm.
While the heavy meat eater group, 400% more chances of getting moderate COVID. Severe COVID. So we are finding now certain facts about whole food plant-based. A study will be coming out shortly. In a year's time, the study will come out that in the COVID era, when people who are plant-based, that did. I'm not saying that plant-based do not get COVID. That is not my argument. But this was that study done of heavy hitters in meat eating. So those are the 2 things that I wanted to bring out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I just want to focus on the role of sleep when it comes to being healthy. People don't seem to realize the gift of good health, and people tend to get abusive with their own body, not giving it enough rest, staying on devices, and doing all these things correct. So what is the role of sleep, and how best can we emphasize in this forum about the need for proper sleep? And once you are through with that, I also would like to ask you, men versus women, what are the signs that one should look for and something that they cannot ignore when it comes to heart health?
Okay, let me tell you, the American Sleep Association has come out that you should get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. The sleep has 4 stages.
Mm-hmm.
What you have is the rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep, or the non-rapid eye movement sleep, NREM sleep. Now, all your dreams and all are done in the REM sleep. And your NREM sleep, non-REM sleep is more important than your REM sleep. In a non-REM sleep, you're completely relaxed. Your muscles are paralyzed. You're out. This is in 4 stages. So first you get your non-REM sleep. Then you get your REM sleep. Then you begin. So it goes on. There are 4 or 5 stages so that you get this 4 stages that I'm talking about. In a group, there are 4 or 5 like this so that you get restorative sleep. Now, if these things are not, say you get nightmares and you get up in your REM sleep, then this is not restorative. It makes you more tired. So the idea is that the moment your eyes open, the first thing you should ask, how am I feeling? If you're not feeling up to date, that means there's something wrong in your sleep. If your diet is okay, your exercise, you've done everything, something wrong with your sleep. So then comes a time whether you meditate before going to sleep, or you stop seeing TV before you go to sleep, soft lights, try to this thing, whatever it is there to make you go to sleep in a nice way. Like my wife, if you see a movie that is very, very frightening, that she will not go to sleep. So all these are factors. Everybody can't follow everything, but sleep should be restorative, at least 7 to 9 hours. Now, if you ask me and say, Akil, do you get 7 to 9 hours? No. I don't. I'm working on it. I get about 6 hours max.
Back in a moment with our guest on Fresh Leaf Forever.
Like I said, I am not perfect, but I am trying to get there. So that is this thing on sleep. When you talked about men and women and heart disease, I just gave a talk a month back on women's heart disease. See, basically, we always say that when your coronary arteries are blocked, there is one which is called left anterior descending. That gets blocked means sudden block, heart attack. So it is called a widow maker. Why is it not called a widower maker? If heart disease is so common in women too, why is it not called a widower maker? Because all the studies and therapeutics were done on men when I was in medical school. Nobody ever thought that women get heart disease. So all the studies were done on men, and therefore the time came when men started getting, because of all the things that happened, like in cancer. So this thing went down. The women's in 1985, they found out it raised. So then they started finding out, what is it? Now 60 to 70% of the women also get this type of heart attacks, the Hollywood or the Bollywood type of heart attacks. Crushing chest pain, falling on the floor, sweating immediately. Even women get that, 60 to 70%. But there are 40% of women who don't get this. They do not get the main coronary blocked. They get microvascular blockages. The small vessels which are on the heart get blocked. And therefore, they don't get a sudden crushing chest pain. What they get is symptoms are very varied. Like some of them will turn around and get, say, neck pain. But it's not neck pain something when you twist or something. No, it's a neck pain which is going on for 2-3 months. Throat pain, upper back pain, indigestion, which you never knew before. But now you're getting it, and it is for a long period of time. So it is a microvascular thing. So if somebody who comes around and says, Doc, 53-year-old woman who comes to me and says, Doc, I am so tired like I've run a marathon. How long have you been like this? Oh, about a month, 2 months. Think of heart disease. Do you have chest pain? No, I don't have any chest pain. So shortness of breath, sudden, I can't breathe. It's always like this. You do your pulmonary function test, normal. Think of heart disease. Upper back pain, if it's a continuous thing, think of heart disease. So these are subtle symptoms in women that men do not have. And therefore, we should also be calling a widower's disease, because females do die now. One of the reasons is that when they reach menopause, their estrogen levels go down. And there was some reason there was estrogen protectiveness. So our doctors and all that about 10 years, 15 years back, put everybody on estrogen, which is bad, because then they found out, no, that outside estrogen does not work. It causes more heart disease. So that is a difference. And another difference is what you have, a broken heart syndrome, which is more common in women. If you hear something which is drastic, bad news, because remember, there was a study done that what do women most likely care for? And the number one thing was the children. Number 2 was the workplace. Number 3 was their spouse. And number 4 were their pets. And somewhere down the line, number 7, they thought of themselves. So when you get news, women, generally speaking, they get their coronaries into spasm or something happens whereby absolutely classical symptoms of a normal heart attack, not those achy pains and shoulder pain and all that, but crushing chest pain. But if they do, and they do angiogram and they do all the tests, normal. and this is completely reversible. But broken heart syndrome is a known thing, happens mostly in women over the age of 50.
What about any pain in the arms, both man or woman, whomever it may be?
It is over simplified. You do not have all, because they say left arm pain with chest pain. No, I had right discomfort. So there is no logical. But if somebody who comes down and says, oh my God, I've got my shoulder pain, especially a woman, then I'll say, wait a minute, let's do the test. But shortness of breath, sweating. So this is the question I'm saying. If you're having a heart attack, 911. If you are having angina, go to your cardiologist and say, is there other options, men and women?
What about smoking, drinking? How much does any of this contribute to heart conditions?
Drinking, till about a month back, we did not know enough about the risk factors, the risk or benefits of drinking. So we were told as lifestyle medicine doctors that do not advocate drinking to anybody who has not started. But somebody who is drinking responsibly, and responsibly means 5 ounces of wine, 1.2 ounces of hard liquor, or 12 ounces of beer. If you are drinking that and you are having, say, peace of mind, or this thing is okay, you're more relaxed, then we would call that as responsible drinking. And we would not ask a patient to stop. 1 month back, this changed completely. They did studies and they found that it has no benefit at all. So the idea was that before we also thought that it increases the good cholesterol, alcohol, wine would increase the good cholesterol. No. So the latest study says that the risks all these are risks. Even mild drinking can cause you risk. Now I'll put a corollary to this. If you ask me, am I drinking? Yes. But I do it in a very, as what I call a responsible fashion. But since I've got this new study, I'm trying now to give up. So that is my thing on drinking. All these phytonutrients and the grapes this thing and all that, that is true, but not with wine or alcohol. Mild drinking can also cause problems. That's number one. Number two is I would like to talk about plant-based, but lifestyle 6 pillars. But let me tell you about, do you know about the blue zones in the world? There are certain blue zones. One is in Okinawa, Japan. One is in California. One is in Italy. There are 5 or 6 blue zones. What they found is that all these people, maximum majority of their diet was plant-based. And number two, they were active. They moved throughout the day. So therefore, I tell people that even though I told you before that 30 minutes of exercise in a stress-free environment does not mean that after that you become a couch potato. Does not mean that you come to the desk. You should be moving throughout the day. So they moved throughout the day. But the only other factor was that they did drink. So this was the blue zones. Now, when I want to end, so we will talk about smoking. Smoking is a no-no. Absolutely 100%. Secondhand smoking is worse than smoking. Number 2. Number 3, if it is addiction. Previously, they used to say bad habit. No, it's addiction. So you will need, and even that for acupuncture or hypnosis or meditation or yoga can all help in that respect too. It took us 10 to 12 years to fight the cigarette industry. So it will take us years and years to fight the dairy industry and the meat industry. So smoking is absolutely 100 million% no.
Okay, let's talk about your book, your contact info, and any other takeaways for listeners to realize the gift of good health. Because people think, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm disease free. So I can eat anything I want. I can drink whatever I want. And so if you can emphasize on your message about the food groups that you're talking about that are important, I think that will be great.
Okay. My book, I would love people to read this book. The reason being that it has helped so many people and so many calls have I got and I've answered them. And you can always go on my website, Dr.AkilTaher.com and leave a message over there. It comes back to me, and I promise you I will reply. It may not be immediately, but I will reply. That's number one. My main idea is to learn from the mistakes I made so that you don't make the same mistakes, so that you don't have to have somebody open your heart and do surgery on you. Let Mother Nature do the surgery on you and open your heart. Number three, my book, whatever royalties that I get, is all going to charity. Because I'm not monetizing on the book at all. It is going to PETA, it is going to American Heart Association and St. Jude's and certain. For example, when I do a library talk, then the library gets some money, or the book's sold in that library. So I'm not interested. But in this book, you will be able to journey with me to see how I survived and lived in this unhealthy body with so many medical problems, and how I faced this. Mainly diet, but exercise, meditation, yoga, mind, body, spirit. And then you all can learn from these mistakes and take small steps in your own lives. And I've been very open so that you can be very open with your shortcomings and then turn around and conquer your own problems that way. Then thirdly, this book will also, for those people who are interested in adventure and all that, they can read these books about the marathons and this and learn from that. Also, this book under chapter 7, and diet is more important than exercise, will teach you why whole food plant-based diet is so important in our lives today, especially in this day and age, especially. And all this is backed by science, which I put in my book, as well as my personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, age, as we talked about, old age is not a criteria, is not a limiting factor for anybody to change the lifestyle. And one more thing, if somebody who is really feeling low has got some kind of a problem, whether it is health problem or otherwise, and you are in an abyss, you're completely hit rock bottom, I assure you this book will make you not only come to ground level, but will make you soar to heights that you never thought was possible. So read this book, enjoy it, and write a review. And I am openly telling you, I don't care whether it is 1 star or 5 stars. Be honest in your review. So that is regarding my book, this thing, and it is available on Amazon. And in India, it is available. And if you feel that, okay, $16 is too much, download it for $1.99. But read and spread the word. Just reading and that's not going to help. You got to spread that message.
Because that's when people can realize the gift of good health, right? So many people tend to think, hey, I'm healthy today. Why should I worry about what I eat or drink?
But you are gambling with your life. Because what I saw, I never saw people who, when I came to this country, having diabetes before the age of 45 or 50. I'm seeing now 20 years. So why do you want to gamble? Fatty streaks in the coronary start at the age of my grandson, 9 years. So why you want to take that? You think that medical science will cure you of your disease? No, it'll band-aid you so that you live longer but not healthier. So why do you want to get into that stage? You are just taking a gamble that, okay, if it happens to me, medical science will be there, I will do this, I will do that. But when it comes to it, then you want to change. Why not change before? Having said that, if you are having diabetes or obesity or other things, please change. Even then, if you change, you will benefit.
What is the role then of practitioners or more practitioners like you to emphasize the need for nutrition and kind of integrate it in their practice? We are what we eat, correct? But then a lot of people don't emphasize the need for nutrition along with the need for whatever, they are trying to tell their patients. So how best can we make the rest of even the medical community realize the need to follow an integrative approach just like you do?
Maimonides was a Jewish philosopher. He said that no disease that can be treated by nutrition or diet should be treated by any other means. Now, if nutrition is that important in treating or preventing disease, why is it not being taught in the medical schools? I had 0 hours of nutrition. My son, who is a doctor, and you graduated from here, had 25 hours. In a 4-year period, 20 hours. That is negligible. If that can cure your chronic diseases, why should it be? Now Dr. Neil Barnard and all are changing things. Medical schools are getting into nutrition more and more. But again, think about it. If I spend time with you, if you come to my clinic as a patient and explain to you for half an hour what you should eat, what you should not eat, how it will benefit you and all that, the insurance is not paying me.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are doing is we are treating on the basis of our procedures and things that we are doing. So you come with asthma and I put you on a breathing machine. That is more beneficial to me than to explain to you that if you do this, you will not get asthma in the first place. So the point I'm making is that we are not really. So there are people who are now resurgent physicians. Even when I went on Saturday and did it. I went to my clinic after 2.5 years. But there were patients who came. I told them, look, I don't want to write you this. Can you do this for me? 50% said yes. 50% said no. I want my medicines, otherwise I'm going somewhere else. So we are going to change slow. This quick fix thing is American, it ingrained into American DNA. We need everything quick. We need a quick fix. We need to McDonald's. We get a food fast. We want everything fast. So if they come around and say that I've got this bronchitis, I've taken antibiotics, I've done over-the-counter medication, it is not helping me. How long did you do it? Just yesterday, I need antibiotics, but you're not giving a body a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my main problem. So if we can do it by nutrition again, if you come with me, why and say I find out that you've got acute appendicitis, I'm not going to tell you take a carrot stick. Of course, you have to go to the emergency room and get surgery done. So there is a role. There's a big role for conventional medicine, but this is not the place. And I always like to tell people, adversity can either be your best friend or your worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. When I got my stents, it was adversity. It was my worst enemy because the next 5 years were horrendous. After my bypass surgery, adversity was my best friend. I transformed myself. Number 2, learn to live outside your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you will get monotonous. If you live outside your comfort zone, does not mean that you run a marathon or go a mountain. It can be anything. Learn to play bridge. A lot of people learn cooking, for example, that I took up. Gardening, for example, book club. Something out of your comfort zone. Oh, but what will they think if I go to a book club and if I don't open my mouth? Don't worry about all that. Nobody's thinking about you. You're not that important. So my idea is do something which keeps you alive. So that is my thing. And you must always follow the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. And number 1, topmost is your nutrition. Plant-based, whole food, plant-based nutrition. Number 2 is exercise, which we talked about at length. Number 3 is sleep, which we talked about. Number 4 is a good supportive system. Because a supportive system, you can be a support or you can take support. And then stress, which I could not handle. Everybody has stress. Otherwise, all our prime ministers and presidents and CEO would be in a lunatic asylum. But they know how to handle stress. I did not know. So I took meditation and all that and tried to help me. And then finally, your addiction to smoking should be stopped, or other things that are addictive, whether it is drugs or alcohol or whatever. If you follow these 6 steps, there is no way that you can come across a major disaster. And your epigenetics will make your body change.
Wonderful. What about someone that says, hey, Dr. Taher, my family has had meat and I'm used to eating meat from childhood. Nothing wrong, or I haven't had any hiccups so far. So why do you say and enforce on a plant-based diet? So what is your final message to someone that would ask that question?
Because it's not going to hit you right now. It is going to come and bite you later on. And when it comes to bite you at that time, you will not be able to at that time change because your taste buds, or you can change. It will be difficult for you to change at that time. And that is a time when you will again go over to doctors who will write you medication for your blood pressure, for your diabetes and whatever. The figure that we have put that 85 is old and very few people will reach 100 is a fallacy. There is no way that you can say that 100, 115, and 120. If you follow a proper diet, which of course is too late for me, I'm doing it. I'm not saying I'm not doing it, but the idea is that if people do it at a younger age, boy, oh boy, people were wondering why it was endurance athlete, why? And I tell you, I had a classical this thing when I did 100 kilometers bike ride, I was still flexitarian. I was having a big piece of chicken or fish after each long run or bike ride. And I would lie in bed for 4 to 5 days. And then I would be lethargic and get up. When I did my 100-mile bike ride, it was so cold. Why? It was something like 29 degrees, uncommonly cold in Mobile, Alabama. And my trainer and I were on the bike and we were literally freezing. It took us 9.5 hours to finish 100-mile bike ride. As we were coming back home, 6 hours drive, I get a call and they said that, Doc, we don't have a replacement tomorrow. This is in 2019. Can you come to work? And I said, okay. But at that time I was plant-based. So I came, just imagine, 8.5 hours of bike ride, 6 hours of in the car. And then next morning, 10-hour shift, like nothing has happened.
So, yeah. It's just phenomenal. I think you couldn't have emphasized it better. Thank you so much for being on the show. And my biggest takeaways were emotional nourishment as a gateway to better health, like the mind-body connection, not eating junk, eating plant-based and eating real foods as nourishment, and realizing the gift of good health today and not wait until something hits. So thank you so much for being on the show, and we welcome you back again in the future to talk about all things that are important and relevant to one's lifestyle. Thank you so much, Dr. Taher. Couldn't have asked for more.
I want to thank you for being such a great interviewer. You asked all the relevant questions, which I was very impressed with.
Okay, thank you so much. As always, listeners, follow the podcast, rate the podcast, and leave a review from your podcast app of choice. Follow me on Instagram at YPKumar for all things digital media and lifestyle. Until next time with yet another interesting guest and yet another interesting topic, it's me, Vi, saying so long.